So it's the Moscow method and essay writing. So I say total recall. Total recall is what? Recalling what we did last time. We said, this was the takeaway at the end of the last class. We had learned how to choose a topic carefully. What should go, that is what we had done. Mohit, you were not there, so you can now just quickly get a recap. We had worked upon how to choose your topic carefully and wisely, and then how to prioritize thoughts and plan it out, your essay, how to structure the essay, and point number 3, and then a beginning and an end. And this is the tip I'm giving you. Images enable recall. So throughout the present class, you will find I have used images not to make the presentation look any better or whatever. The whole idea of using certain images is to, the image and the voice and the visual, they kind of assimilate very well. So the recall value is better. Sometimes when you are trying to remember something, you are not getting the right words, but you may get the image. So there is an association of an image with the recall value. And therefore, I use the image of red square. I use the image of Moscow, the character, with Moscow method. This is a small tip that I've given you. So this is what we did in the last class. This will lead us to give us a good essay. And this is what we had touched upon, how to use this method. This is the method, if you remember. I'm just repeating for the sake of some of those who were not present in the class, and for those who were present but may have forgotten. So this is a technique essentially to prioritize your haves. What are the haves in my essay? I must have, I should have, I could have, and I won't have. So this is, sorry, so this is the M of Moscow, the S of should, the CO of could, and the W of won't. This comprises Moscow. Now today we will use the must have, should have, could have, won't have. These things we will choose one essay, work it out and see how we go about it. So let's remember we had last time discussed 4 topics. Now which one do we choose? So I decided I choose D. So here you see the wedding ring, which normally the guru would say I choose D, and slips in. There's a ring here, but the idea of the image is just choosing. What are you choosing? Number, I choose 3. What ails the banks in India? These were the 5 topics that we had done last time. We had just kind of touched upon them, and which one we should choose depending on how much we know about each subject. So this time, what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose essay number 3. What ails the banks in India, and apply the Moscow method to it. And then we will kind of write the essay down so that you get an idea as to how we've gone about it. Are you guys with me? I need a yes on that. Are you guys with me?
Yes, sir.
Any questions? So far, so good? Okay. So I go ahead, and the first step when we use the Moscow method is free flowing of thoughts. Remember, there is a psychological and even in literature you have the stream of consciousness, which is we allow our mind to just flow, have a free flow of thoughts. Now here, instead of thoughts, we're going to have free flow. As we think, we choose the words. Just close your eyes and say the topic. What is this topic? What ails the banks in India? Now give yourself 5 minutes, sit down with your pen and a piece of paper and start jotting down things as they come to your mind, irrespective of they are right or wrong. That is not important. Let your thoughts flow. And for each thought, write one word. That's what we call the stream of consciousness. Let your consciousness come up with the thoughts that you have in your mind when you read the word, what ails the banks in India? So now my free flow goes like this. I would say that all of you, please write the words in the chat. Each one give me one word quickly. When NPA, okay, very good. Sabah Noor says NPA. Anybody else? So Sabah, write NPA on a piece of paper, write fraud on a piece of paper. Himanshu, write capital infusion on your papers. Too much regulation, savings, saving lending, too many norms, bankruptcy, digital products, defaulters, very good, very good. Government schemes, excellent. Insufficient staff, Amit, very nicely said. Alliances, political pressure, very good. Forced lending, yes. RBI interference, very good. So now you understand what you've done. All these thoughts, if you have a piece of paper with you and you go on writing these thoughts one by one, it comes something like this. So I'm writing these things down as it came to my mind. Demotivated staff, I mean, you used all these words, by the way, in a different form, but yes. So you have demotivated staff, you have lack of, it came to my mind, lack of schools for children. When bankers go there, when they get posted there, they think of, I'm going to a rural area, I'm going to a B class town, I'm going to a C class town, I won't get admission for my children. Political interference, state government dominance, foreign banks, loan waiver, large number of banks, panchayats, corruption, RBI, poverty, losses, government schemes, financial indiscipline, competition, lack of schools for children. This is what repeated here. NBFCs, corruption, NPAs, yes, somebody did say that. Private sector lending. Okay, so bipartisan settlement, complex process, incompetent management. Fair enough. Now stop writing the words, mergers. Yes, you have your words. I also had my words in the last two slides. I will run them again quickly. Okay, they will. I don't think I should waste time on running them because they will appear in slide number 8. Arresting process. Now I'm using the image of arresting. So this is going to stick in your mind. Having got some 20 odd words on my paper, you see, you have given yourself some 10 to 20 words which have been worked out now, and I've jotted them down on the screen. If I had a pen with me, I would have written your words instead of my words. But here we have to choose from the 20 words that I had listed in the previous 2 slides. I am now going to do a recap and see this was poverty was there, losses, government of scheme. So whatever words you find are highlighted like losses, financial indiscipline, competition, lack of schools, NBFCs, corruption, NPAs, private sector lending, demotivated staff, overdues, political interference, state government dominance, foreign banks, loan waivers, RBI, large number of banks, panchayats, fintechs. So I'm very happy to see that many of you have actually used some of the words that I had also in my mind. which means these are commonalities, and therefore I highlighted them, some of them. The words which are highlighted are the first M, Moscow's must have. I must talk of losses. I must talk of financial discipline. I must talk of the competition. I must talk of NBFCs. So when I talk of competition, NBFCs, fintechs, they will all come. Foreign banks, they are all
Hello,
a part of
sir.
competition. Notice
Sir, I'm not getting a screen.
competition screen is
Yeah, sir, excuse. Sir, again you need to present the screen, share the screen.
hello. So Varna,
So we can see
can you
you,
not
but
see?
we are not able to see the screen.
Arunima, you
We
can't.
can see you, but not the screen. Not the screen, sir.
Oh,
Please share your
I'm
screen.
sharing. I didn't do anything to it.
Again, you need to do
Yeah, yeah. I'm
present wala
doing
thing.
that.
Huh. Yes.
Can you see it now? Are you seeing?
No, no.
1 minute. Can you see me?
Yes, sir. We can see you. You can see that button where you need to
Now,
present. Share.
no, the button is not highlighted. This
Yes, sir. Now it is coming.
now the presentation is there.
Yes, yes.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
okay, okay.
Now
So,
we can see.
so you can see now. So we had done this and this, right? I proceed from here. So we had chosen these. We had noted down 20 points in slide 6 and slide 7. And then I had gone to slide 8. For the arresting process, where we had chosen, we had listed all the 20 and then decided the ones which are highlighted here are the ones which I am choosing out of my free flow of thoughts. And I'm happy to note that many of my thoughts are very similar to your thoughts. We've had common points in our minds when we were thinking about it. But then, please remember that your essay is about 400 words at best. And you possibly cannot write too much into it. You have 40 marks for that, and you have to write in about 300 words at best. Sometimes, they can ask you anything between 200 words, the bar and RBI. So keeping the word limit in mind, you also have to see that 20 thoughts have come to your mind. If you're going to write about 20 thoughts, it will be too much. And all the thoughts are necessarily not correct. Some of them are rubbish. Absolutely, what came to my mind, something like lack of school for children, it is something in the category of won't. But poverty could, I could talk of poverty if I don't get anything else to talk about. But I certainly should, I must talk of losses. I must talk of financial indiscipline. I must talk of competition. I must talk of NBFCs. So when I say competition, automatically you will notice that the NBFCs, the foreign banks, and the fintechs, they all become a part of the competition that we can talk about. So it automatically reduces the number of things from here, and you put them all under one head. Now, lack of school for children is irrelevant. If I don't get anything else to write, I can always use it, but I won't use it. There's corruption. There are NPAs. Somebody rightly pointed out. And you have the priority sector lending. You have the demotivated staff. You have overdues. Then political interference. I'm not using foreign banks. Loan waivers I'm using. RBI, you can see what ails the bank, what RBI has done, what RBI can do, what RBI has not done. I'm not using RBI right now. I'll take large number of banks. And I will use, take fintech. So fintech, as I said, it will already form a part of Sir, there's a question here. Sir, in this topic, only describing the problems will do, or should we also include possible solutions to the problems? Yes, sir, possible solutions are a part of your end, the conclusion. When you're going to write your conclusion, we'll come to this point. Is the way forward required, Saharsh? I think you are anticipating my slides very well. Yes, I'll talk about that later too. So then what we do is, let's write the essay now. The way forward. The way forward I have mentioned here, but I will talk about it towards the end only, because that's my forward there. I'm somewhere in the middle right now. And Saharsha will be taking a point there also. So then let's begin with losses in branches. That was the first point that I had from my Moscow method of 20 points. The first point that I thought was losses in branches. So there's always a profit and loss images here. So if you remember this image, you may forget what I have said losses, but if you also remember profit and loss tabs, certainly when you're writing the essay, this image will come to you, and then you will know what to say on losses of branches. So now here we'll say, due to overhead costs, documentation overload, and prevalence of informal lending systems, as also non-banking channels in the hinterland, there are losses in the branches. Now, if you okay, we'll discuss this point again. Then next point I had taken was NPAs. So we write something about NPAs. The commercial banks at present are not really able to monitor the performance of their loans and advances. Thus, they are unable to ensure the right use or the end use of loans, whether the funds are being channelized for the purpose for which these have been sanctioned. Now, please remember, ultimately the content should be relevant, but not so vital. What I'm going to see is how well you are presenting, how you have structured your thoughts, how your points are flowing in a manner. They are connected. They are not random points. So one point leads to the other point. And therefore, if you were to write 2 sentences or 4 lines on each, that would give you enough material. So we write this is on NPAs. Then we come to the priority sector lending. इनके लिए कुछ नया करना पड़ेगा. This is an image of the governor saying this. This is your typical priority sector images that you see here. Remember these images. First was the profit and loss tab. Then was the NPAs. I did not use an image for NPA, but you can always add your images. And then you have this image of the RBI governor. So we are talking of the priority sector lending. The progress in this sector leaves much to be desired. Yes, peer-to-peer lending may be one. You are free to use whatever you think at that point is must. It should be there. It could be there, but it won't be there. Don't bring in those points unless you are totally at a loss. We are only using the critical points, the M and the S and the C's. C's, if we are not getting anything, but I have basically taken the M's only. My essay must have losses, must talk about NPAs, must talk about priority sector lending. Hence, for them to lend mandatorily is to a sector where there are less profits and more losses is not really a priority, especially as recovery is poor, especially in agriculture sector. The next is overdues, the image of overdues. The small branches of commercial banks are now faced with a new problem, a large amount of overdue advances to farmers. You can expand this a little more, I'm just giving you the, how to bring in the point. Then we have the next point is financial indiscipline. The high amounts of outstanding dues to banks from borrowers results in the banks incurring huge losses. This impacts the capital adequacy ratio, which gets eroded. Now notice the language is very simple. We are not using bombastic words. We are not using complicated sentences. We are not using flowery language. We are simply stating facts about what ails the banks in India, and in a crisp, short sentence manner. Sentences should not be very long. Remember, do not write more than 20 words in a sentence. Do not put too many commas and semicolons to make your sentence complicated. Write simple sentences. Waiver of loans to farmers is added to the plight of such banks. This is an indiscipline, waiver of loan by the politicians. It also brings financial indiscipline among borrowers and inculcates a culture of defaults. Yes, can we use recent use of loan waiver off to businessmen? Please bring in live example. That will be nice. If you are running short of material, bring in an example which will give the examiner insight that this gentleman or this lady is familiar with the world around him, what is happening, by giving a relevant example. So, Vivek, good question, and you can use it certainly. Eroded means, getting reduced. Erode, when there is soil erosion, we normally say, the mountain gets eroded because of soil erosion. When the soil gets off, it gets chopped off a hill, or because of heavy water flowing, the topsoil from the farmland is eroded, it is removed. And you have said decreased. Yes, decreased is also right. 68 crores is not erosion. Depletion, yes, depletion is okay. Yes, soil erosion example is good. The soil gets eroded. Very good, Raj. So then we talk of the next point, which is the competition. Stiff competition. Where is the competition coming from? From fintechs, from big techs, from foreign banks, non-banking financial intermediaries, such as mutual funds. Sorry. I'm sorry for this goof up, but it happens with me. So, yeah, we were here, and then we were moving to the next slide. We were talking about the competition. So where do we get the competition from? The fintechs, the big techs, the foreign banks, the non-financial intermediaries such as mutual funds, housing finance corporations, leasing and investment companies. All these have made inroads into deposit taking by giving higher rates of interest. No doubt, the risk exposure of the borrowers is higher, but the rate of interest is alluring to depositors. So this is why the banks are having some problem. The next point is poor working culture. Look at this cartoon. I want the public to think of us as a company with a heart. So the boss is telling the employee, I want the public to think of us as a company with a heart, but I want you to think of us as a company that will chew you up, spit you out, and smear you into the carpet if you screw up. So this is the internal culture of the organization, which is different, what we call as the poor working culture. The mindset of what kind of a mindset this employee will have. The employee's employee is laid back, as there is job security, especially in the public sector banks, you can say, not in the foreign banks, not in the private sector banks, but when I talk of job security, this is of the public sector. Slow decision making, cumbersome procedures, demotivated staff, cumbersome procedures, a lot of paperwork, documentation, delays, come tomorrow attitude, not today, it's lunchtime, come after lunch. This is what we call as the poor working culture. Poor use of modern technology. Why there is competition from these people, other than, what we discussed, the reasons, they are using better technology, better IT systems. And what is happening in our Indian banks, most of them are not in sync with modern times. The grassroots level staffs have to be involved in the process of the mission and vision of the bank. This is seen in the form of pressure from various external. My slides decide to jump on their own. From external quarters like the government, political leaders, local trade lobbies, etc., etc. The next point is a large number of banks and poorly staffed branches, which is now led to the consolidation. This has led to consolidation merger of the public sector banks. 10 such banks have been merged into 4. The anchor banks are the following 4 banks, and in place of 27, now we have, not there will be, we now have 12 public sector banks. Okay, now, having made your points, so these were our important points from my point of view, which I thought must and should form a part of this essay. Somebody had asked the way forward. Please remember, this way forward, you must always end up your essay with the way forward. So the Indian bank, so I'm giving you a top, something like Indian banking sector is propelled towards a higher orbit. To remain relevant in the changed economic environment, banks will have to rework their business strategies, designing products with a customer-centric approach, and focus on improving the efficiency of the services. We should be seized of the issues and act in time. Now, this is what we call as a conclusion. Please remember, in the previous class, we had talked of what I will talk in the next slide, the Big Bang theory. You begin with the bang and you end with the bang, right? So here I'm ending with the bang here. This is my conclusion. After I write my 7-8 points, I will end my essay by saying, this is the way forward. So what is the way forward? Ask the question, what is the way forward? In my understanding, to remain relevant, blah, blah, blah. You go and write this para. You can take this para. We will give you this essays will be there on the site. So please use this material if you wish to remember this ending, which will help you. So when in my last class, I did talk of the Big Bang theory, that we should begin our essay in a manner which addresses the attention of the reader. So here are 8 sentences that I have given you to begin your essay, or to end your essay. Now, have finance and banking. Sorry, there is an extra have here. You want to make a question, you can say, have finance and banking emerged as engines of global economic growth? Or you don't put a question mark here and begin your sentence with, remove the word have and say, finance and banking have emerged as engines of global economic growth. Now, this sounds very, very nice to the ears, to the eyes who reads. Somebody will read and say, this gentleman has energy, because your first opening sentence is so striking. Or, we are already, and this you can use in the end also, begin with an end, bank, and end with the bank. We are already witnessing yet another paradigm shift in banking on the back of a technological revolution that promises better customer service experience, risk management, and returns to shareholders. Having said this in the beginning, you can say, however, Indian banks have certain problems. So you are linking the two. Please remember, when we are using our 9 points, don't make them stand alone. There has to be a nice transition, and you will have to use transitional phrases like as a result, consequently, in the process, finally, therefore, on account of, as stated above. These are called transitional phrases. So from one para to the other para, you can want to be more matter of fact, you can begin a firstly, secondly, thirdly type of an approach also. So this could be a good beginning. Another beginning could be the overhang of non-performing assets remains relatively high, which is weighing on credit growth, leading to a lot of ailment in our banking sector. That you can continue with from there. New issues have surfaced and challenged the very core of the traditional banking business. In addition to this, is also very nice. This one. In addition to the 4 pillars of supervision: on-site inspection, off-site surveillance, market intelligence, and reports of statutory auditors. These 4 pillars are a part of the Basel, Basel 1, Basel 2. They have come up with 4 pillars, which the regulator should be using. So if you are using RBI somewhere, then you can add this phrase. This is typically for the central bank. A 5th pillar of supervision in the form of periodic interaction with the stakeholders has been instituted to have a clearer understanding of the emerging risks and developments in this sector. There's a famous writer, Josiah Stamp, who says the modern banking system manufactures money out of nothing. The process is perhaps the most astounding piece of sleight of hand that was ever invented. Now, this is a very shocking kind of a statement. When you begin your essay, it kind of makes me wonder what this guy is trying to say. And then you link it to your main statement. That today banking is taking a different shape. We are having certain problems in the industry, and it is not as simple as what Stamp is saying. There's another one by Michael Lewis which says a banking system is an act of faith. It survives only for so long as people believe it will. So then, if I want the Indian banks to survive, I would like the customers to believe in the bank. And that's how you take your essay forward. The modern banking system manufactures money out of nothing. So these are just catchy phrases that will help you start your essay and end your essay. And the way forward that we spoke here, this is how you will, the best way to end your essay is by rounding up of what you have said. So here, after listing out 5, 7, 8 or 9 points about what is the banking system, you are now giving a solution to it. That we should be seized of the issues and act in time. This is where you close your essay. You will have about, now this essay that we have discussed, your friends, if you remove the headings, and write it down. It is an essay by itself. So I've prepared the essay, but I've broken it by giving you certain headings there. When you're going to write it down, when you copy it down, you can remember it, you can learn it, you can read it 10 times to get a hang of what has been said. Remove the headings. Just headings are only for you to remember in your mind. The images are for you to recall them so that your thoughts flow from what you already have, subconsciously or consciously imbibed. Okay, so this is so far as my presentation was concerned. Today's essay, you can, the essay would be available to you on our site. So you can rewrite it by removing the headings. I'm suggesting once again, and your essay is ready. And this essay can be used not only for what is the banks, it could be a topic, is something wrong with the Indian banking system, or is something wrong with the private sector banks, or why private sector banks are not performing as good as foreign sector banks. All these points will be useful to you. Sir, can we start with the question? Which is starting with the question is a bit tricky. It is a bit tricky. You can start with the question, no doubt, because if you want to startle the person, but you must not wait till the end to give an answer to the question. You start with the question and immediately provide an answer. Who says anything is wrong? What I told you last time, if you remember, is a shock value. Shock your reader. Give him something which is going to say, what is he saying? What is he trying to say? And then in the next, what follows, you're going to clarify that point. Do we need to provide title? Very much so, very much so. You've got to give a title, you must write. Otherwise, there are 3-4 topics. How will we know what you're talking about? So Priyanka says, yeah, do we need to provide a title? Yes. So what will happen if examiner and we don't share the same opinion? Would that have any negative impact in any way? You see, you are not into a debate of any kind. Please remember that. You are only giving, and do not take, as I think we discussed this point, do not take sides. We are not into a debate. You are giving the pros and cons. If you want to get into that kind of a situation where they are asking you, do you, if the essay begins with a question, do you think Indian banks are suffering from various problems? Now, when the question says, do you think, it means you are expected to give your views. And here in Rohan's question comes in, what happens if the examiner and we don't share the same view? It doesn't matter. But do not try to give a balanced view. Do not take a strong, very strong, stubborn line of thinking. Say these are the problems, these are the solutions, and this is how we can come to a common point. Examiner is not there to, agree with your points altogether. He also knows that our points are not going to be the same always. But we are not into a debate. We are into an essay. We are attempting to talk about something you are asking me to talk about. So if you are asking me a question, then I have my pros and cons. If it is what is the Indian banks, it is not a question. In that sense, where there's a debate, here you cannot say nothing is the Indian banks. No, the fact that something is wrong with the Indian banks, that is why they have asked you this question. So you are giving A, B, C, D, E, F, G. These are the problems, and X, Y, Z. This is my solution to it. Okay, Ruhi wants to know, how do we use Moscow method for static and evergreen topics like women empowerment? Ruhi, this can be used anywhere. When you talk of women empowerment, just close your eyes and take your pen and a piece of paper and start writing about women empowerment. What? Women, role in the past, history, modern women, Indian women, world women, Western women, within India, educated women, uneducated women. There are so many points that come to your mind. You go on writing them down. Use the Moscow method. Marriage, career, conflict, work-life balance. All these things will come from women empowerment. Right? So, Moscow method is one method which will help you in any situation where you are supposed to write something descriptive. It helps you to gather your thoughts, A, and B, it tells you what is relevant and what is irrelevant. You have given yourself those 5 minutes to write down and plan your structure, and your thoughts are going to flow. Otherwise, if you read the topic and start writing, you start 4 lines and then you will stop and think about it. What is the next thing I should say? I don't have a structure with me. I'm going awry. My thoughts are not flowing. They're getting mixed up. So Moscow method is going to help you there. I think we've had a long session, so I can end here. And questions are always welcome. Can we use a small story or a situation in the start? Be brief, because you don't have many words. It's a small essay that you're writing. Remember that. And we are more concerned about your the structure of the essay, your language, and your content. Now, if the story is too long, then you'll be using 1/3 of the essay in writing the story. So maybe an anecdote or a reference. For example, empowerment of women, as somebody was saying, you can give a quick reference to Draupadi, for example. If we have to, this women were empowered in the past, but not today. And give an example. For example, if we see Maharani of Jhansi, just give that. Don't go into the history and geography of Maharani Jhansi, how she fought the battles and how she fought the British. No, but a quick reference that you are using Rani of Jhansi as an image of women empowerment. Yeah, that will do. Will the first part? Yes, I think the first part, Yogesh, has already been uploaded on our site.
Sir,
Thank
I
you
have
so
a
much.
question.
Good night and take
Subhashish.
care. Stay fit and
Sir,
stay
I have a
home
question.
and study hard. Thank you. Bye.